Hello, I'm Andrew Voigt, and welcome to my Component.Studio video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to show you the process of me building a deck of cards for one of my prototypes. And so it's going to be less scripted than usual, but you'll get to see how Component.Studio works throughout the process. At this point, I have a project set up in Component.Studio, but I haven't started working on a design at all. I do have a spreadsheet here that's been made and has most of the information I need. I'll need to add some URLs for the character art. Mainly, I think that's the only thing I need to add at this point. But other than that, I'm going to jump in. These are a set of ability cards for a snowball fight game I'm working on called Snowday: The Cold War. To begin, I want to set up my design. So I'm going to head to my designs page, open up the appropriate project. In this case, it is Snowday. And this is a new set of cards, so I'm going to go ahead and add the name of it. I'll do character ability cards. We will use a standard poker deck for it, and the backs are actually all going to be different, so I need to set that to unique. And I don't have my data set created for that, so for now I'm going to leave that here and I'll come back to that later. To begin, I'm going to set up my back. Like I said, when I create my cards, I normally like to create one as the template, and then I'm going to go back and drop in all the appropriate variables to refer back to my spreadsheet. So on the back, I'm going to want an image, and that's going to be centered. So I'm going to do center me X, center me Y, and I'm going to see if I have the image uploaded already. Which I do not. So let me go ahead and head that. I'm gonna jump back, head over to images and icons, and we're in Snowday, and we'll just put it in the main folder. And let me fish out my logo real quick. My file system is a bit of a mess, but it works for me, so so you're not the one who has to dig through it. I believe it's that one. So we'll go ahead and upload that image. Once it's ready, I'll jump back to the design and drop it in the back. Alrighty, there it is. So I'm going to go back to my design. Find it in the folders and click it. Alright, that is way too big, so I need to reduce the size. I probably should have uploaded a smaller one. Set it to the width of the card, and I want it a little bit smaller than that, so we'll do -75. Where does that bring it? Got to get it in that safe zone, so. No, that's going to be too small. Oh. Perfect. I'm also going to want another image here. I'm going to want an image of a character standing behind it. This image will be unique for each card, so it refers to the character who belongs to the card, or the character who the card belongs to. Naming my assets. I don't always do this. It depends on how complicated my cards are. Just an easy way to keep track of it. Let's see. This should be under character cards. Bam, there it is. And for a placeholder, I'll just grab one of these. And once again, center me X, center me Y. to adjust the width. Bam. A little bit smaller. Again, I'm going to make sure everything fits in frame appropriately. And I actually want her to appear behind the logo. So these numbers up here show what order they appear, or determines the order that the program writes the images. And so a lower number will always be written first, or in other words, a lower number will be on the bottom. So if I change that to a 5, the logo at a 10 will appear on top. Again, this is for a prototype, especially a first version of these cards, so I'm not super worried about how they look, but because I have some art assets that I'm already using for this game, I can drop them up to make it, or drop them in to make it look a little bit better. Now the face of the cards are going to be pretty simple. I'm going to have the card title, I'm going to have the character and the background, and then I'm going to have a condition of when the card can be played, and then a card text saying what it does when it's played. Let's go ahead and start with a text box for the title, keeping it really simple, throw it top and center, and we're just going to leave it at name. Might change that later depending on where I have it, the variable set in my spreadsheet, but again, I'm just throwing up a rough idea of what we're dealing with so we can get an idea of where the where everything lines up before we drop our variables in. And then we're going to need the another text box. This is going to be the play conditions. And I'm assuming I'm going to want that to start around 600 pixels down on the y-axis. I don't have a whole lot of text that goes in my cards, but I can limit the height. So let's have that go from 6 to no further than 8. Oops, I did that wrong. I'd want that to be 200 then. And instead we're going to change play condition. Alright, and I'm going to want one more text box. On this one we're going to do card text. And we're actually going to use the previous Y command. There it is. So what this does is this looks at the previous asset, so in this case, play conditions, and it begins drawing this asset right after that. So if we see, we have the play condition card, and then the text for our card text will appear below it. Now the neat thing that this lets you do is if play conditions, oops, wrong button, there we go. If play conditions was really long and took place over multiple lines, I can spell and talk at the same time. You see that card text automatically got pushed down as that text box grew. There we go. And then on our card text, I forgot to set the maximum height I want the text box to be. And for that, so our previous one went from 600 to 800. So let's say both our max height, we're going to have that be 800 to 1000. Or if we want to get really fancy, alright, so what we're doing here, I'm going to add a bunch of text here just to show what we're talking about. Oh, I gotta keep going. that right then? No, nope, that was right. 75 was right. Oh, bunch. Okay, so what we're doing here is something a little more complex, but basically it makes it so that the bottom of this text box will always be about this area, because we're taking the height of this asset, is looking at the total height of the card and reducing it by the end location of the previous asset. And then the negative 75 is just to make sure we stay in the safe zone. That was a little bit advanced, but that's something clever you can do to auto format some of your cards for text and height. I'm going to center all my text boxes. I'm going to reduce all the filler text I threw in there for the example. There we go. And I'm going to stop explaining so much and keep building. I'm gonna pop in an image, and this is just going to be the character that shows up in the background. Dropping in center me X, center me Y, just because. Oh. And I actually usually just post center me X in both and then change the X to a Y. I find that quicker than writing them both out. Again, we want our character on the back or bottom layer, so I'm going to adjust that. If I was smart, I would have dropped that in first, so I didn't have to change the numbers around later. But let's just go ahead and drop that at 5 to make sure it's in the back. And it's also 5 is nice because then if we need to drop something behind it even further, we still have numbers 1 through 4 that we can use. So that's our character image. And then I want to do a couple of boxes. We'll just do one box around the text area. And so this is going to give us I'll make a semi-transparent white layer so it kind of fades out the background so we can read the text no matter what appears back there. And so we're going to want that Y to start around 600. And I'm going to leave the height. Technically, this square is going on beyond the bottom of the card, but I don't really care because that's never going to get rendered. That's in position. We need to appear under our text but above our character image. So we'll just set that at 10. That's going to be our white layer. So our color is going to be mostly white. And we're going to draw it on the alpha to work tint. Again, I want it at a point where I can still see what's back there, but it doesn't interfere with the text. I like dropping a border on there. I did something wrong. I ruined my opacity somehow. So we're going to go to advanced and I'll change the transparency of that here. There we go. I don't like how that looks. That's okay. We'll just keep moving forward. And then on the top, I'm actually going to do something a little bit goofy. Alright, I'm going to add another square, and this is going to be for the top. This will be for the title box, where the title of my text will appear. And I want that The height can be short. Oh, I only want that to be around 150. The Y I want near the top. There we go. The width I can have a lot shorter, and you'll see what I'm doing here in a second. I want the width to be, well, let's just say 400. Nope, let's say 600. There we go. Again, we're going to set this to white. I'm going to give it a border. Then I'm going to round the corners, which can give it a little a smoother look sometimes. We're going to increase how much that rounds by until we feel good about it. I feel good about that. And I'm going to slide it up a little bit. We'll just go negative. It's probably too far. Yeah, it's definitely too far. Let's put our text on top so we can actually see where that's appearing. So our text is at 40. So we're going to set this at 35. Make sure it gets drawn under. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm messing everything up. Title, that's what we're dealing with. Okay, so we're going to set the title. So we'll set this to 15. Sorry about that. Okay. So the box for the title we'll set at 15. There we go. Now we can see where the title falls in that. And I just want to pull this back just a teeny tiny amount. So let's go to 130. There we go. And now we have a pleasant little box that appears around our title. I'm going to fix the white layer box because I don't like it. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate the white layer box. The second one I'm going to use to add border. Okay, so I'm just going to shut the fill off. There we go. And just have the border turned on. That way we have a nice line between the two. I'm going to reload the page just to get all my numbers back in order. There they are. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and finish building my spreadsheet. So, over here on the Snowday, I have the character art line that I didn't put together. I definitely could have earlier. I'll just click through and add all my image URLs. So what I'm doing is I'm adding the URL for the image that I want to refer to each character. This image will appear both on the front and the back of my cards. So that's this girl here. And that's going to be my character art column. So I'm going to image and icons. I want to find the folder that all my characters are in. Right there. And I'm going to copy and paste the corresponding image URLs. Copy URL to clipboard, that one. And then I'll drop it in the correct card space on my spreadsheet. Skater girl. If you're not sure what I'm doing here, check out the video I did on adding images. But basically, This image URL tells Component.Studio where to find the image to use for the particular asset. And so I need to enter. Oh, you pushed the wrong button. I'm hitting page down. Actually, my touchpad was on. There we go. Okay, there we go. So I have everything I need in my spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and tell Google Docs to publish it to the web as a CSV file. So I'm going to copy that, and now I'm going to go make a data set with it. So head back to datasets. Yeah, I need to make a new one. Creating the dataset. I dumped the Google Docs URL. That is, I've already published it as a CSV file. And now I can click import. And bam, it's all in place. I do have two columns over here I didn't use. I'll probably go back there and pretty up the card and add a background of a house or a yard or something. That's kind of what I had in mind when I put those here, but I didn't end up using them. And another thing to note is sometimes I have notes columns that I'll never use within my design, but it gives me an idea of something else, whether it's a comment I have, or in this case it's art direction for what the final art of the card might be. And that's just tips and tricks of another thing you might think about including. That way it helps me consolidate more information to a single spreadsheet rather than having to hold multiple documents talking about the same thing. So now that I have my data set ready, I need to make sure I have it set on my design. So the character ability cards is what we've been working on. Go ahead and change that to the character action cards. And we'll open that up. And now we're going to swap out all of our variables in all their different boxes. So let's start out with the character image. That was going to be our character art. And so with that variable in there, now every time Component.Studio she sees this, they'll refer to that column for each card and swap in the details into that section. So as you see in here, that we swapped out for the drone boy. Or on this card, picking a random one because I know it's a different character, we have our climber. And so this putting in these variables has Component.Studio refer to your data set for things you need. Heading over to the back, I have the same one in here. That way my characters are going to appear on the back for everyone. There you go. Bam. I think I'm actually going to move that back title, but I'll do that later. Alright, so my card title is actually in the name, and we're going to leave it as name. The only thing I want to change is that the title box needs to come down a little bit because my text are overlapping. And for prototypes, I usually don't put custom fonts in or specific fonts in. I'm lazy, but I'll show you how to do that here just so you get the whole picture. We need that height. Let's go ahead and do that for. And because I said I'd do it, let's go ahead and add a font to this. So we're going to go back to the fonts section. And because I don't care, I'm going to pick something that's going to make some font geek angry. Aleph bold looks good enough to me. Okay, so we're already on Snowday. Oh, yeah. Sorry, we're already on Snowday, and we'll go ahead and add Aleph bold. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Where'd it go? Aleph bold. We'll add it to the palette for this design. Now we want to refresh. Now we can swap out the text for the new font type. Aleph bold we picked. There we go. If you don't like that, leave me a comment, because I know you font geeks out there. See, my theory with font is I'll never make a good choice, so I just better stop caring. Obviously, if I get to the point of trying to publish something, I will, but for my prototypes, I really don't care about what my fonts look like. Alright. Couple more things. I don't like how that's appearing down here. So my white layer, I'm actually going to reduce the opacity on it. Or sorry, increase it. So that comes out a little more clear. And I can even increase the size of my fonts. Another trick I like doing is using a font stroke of 1 pixel, and even just setting it to white. Usually makes your stuff pop a little bit more. Doesn't look the cleanest from a graphic design perspective, I realize that, but right now I care about function over form. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Check the back. And I actually want to move that title up, so we're going to take that Snowday logo and we'll move it up to, well, we'll do it right along the top. So 75 means you're just barely going to be in the safe zone. So if you ever want to make sure you're in the safe zone, go ahead and set something to 75, and then it'll start being generated within it. Now, always remember you have to start watching out. You have to keep an eye out on the other side of the border then. For example, if I set X to, in this case 200. Oops, 200. Bam. It starts to get cut off because it goes too far to the right. So just be aware of that. But I actually want that centered. I'm doing a lot more explaining than I originally intended here, but trying a new video type, see if any of you like it, see if it's useful. I think it's helpful to see the program actually in action, even if it's someone like myself just bumbling through it. And I actually want that lowered by 100? 100 sounds good. I did something wrong. I put an equal sign rather than a minus. And I did a minus sign. I should have done a plus. Oh, I'm good at this stuff. There's a reason you all watch me. Alright. There you go. Now I can click through my cards, make sure everything is appearing as wanted. And I really want something in the background there. I don't like the white back. So I'm going to mess a little bit more up. And let's throw another... let's throw another image in there. Oops. But I want it to be below everything else. Houses. Sure, let's grab that. And I actually... So now I want the height of the image to match the height of the card. And then I don't like how the house is lining up there, so I'm going to move it a little bit to the right. far? Okay, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna not nitpick it. And that gives us a quick, good throw together card. I'm happy with that. Our backs look nice and clean. And then our faces. Let's do that the same treatment, because that was easy enough. Adding an image. Under houses. And I'll use this house. I'm going to go back and change these. What am I looking for? I want the height. Go height. And let's see what that looks like if we center it, actually, on the... Nope. I want it down here. So let's center it on the x-axis, and then we got to drop it to the back. There, it's on the x-axis. And we'll go ahead and send that all the way to the back. Bam. Our images don't line up perfectly, but again, we're talking a prototype. I don't need this to be fancy. I just need there to be color on the card. Oh, I didn't swap out all my variables. As we see here, we still have play condition and card text. That's not exactly what I want. So for play condition, let's go ahead and get our play requirements. Really, I just need to be better at naming my assets consistently. And that's what it should look like. And the card text. Appears down there. Now, if you notice, the card text font got a little smaller. That's because we're automatically fitting to a text box. But there are things that aren't lining up quite like I want. So I'm going to tweak those a little bit. Oh, in the wrong direction. Let's do 65. Let's see where that gets me. There, perfect. See how we're writing that line there. And then I should probably align left. Nope, I should definitely not align left. Let's see what our other fonts look like. I did add some fonts to this project before. I don't know if I'm actually going to want any of them. So one thing you can do to add space, notice how much there's such a gap between the lines here. I find myself very often reducing the line spacing, and it's usually just like 90 or just a little bit shorter. Because 50 is going to be way too much, so let's set that at 75. And I think, to me, I think the text looks better when there's less of a gap between the lines. But you know, I'm sure there's someone who disagrees with me. And then do the same thing for this, just so they match. There we go. That way our font gets to be a little bit bigger. I want there to be some more clear difference between the play condition and the actual card text. I just can't decide what I want to do for that. So one thing I'm thinking about is the font highlight or the background. These are nice because it's a way to highlight just the lines that show up. So actually I would probably do it on the play condition. And again, this isn't something I would do in a final product. I'd spend some more time on my coloring. But let's go ahead and see if we give that a background. and we have a little sectioned off spot here. There we go. Okay, good enough. Just so I don't ruin it anymore, I'll leave it at that. Now if we look, our play condition here is always going to have a white backdrop to it. And that makes it very easy to see between the two. And I still don't like how that looks. Sorry. So why don't we just go the entire other way? Make it big and black, and that way we'll change our font. There. And we will get rid of the font stroke. Bang. There we go. That's much, much, much cleaner. I am not a graphic design and art guru. I always fall short in that area. So if I can just get something as playable from a visual perspective, I'm happy. I also really don't like that big white area. So let's go ahead and adjust that. Let's change the size to 200. We're going to change the Y. Oh, no, not the size. Sorry, I meant the height. There we go. Let's change the height then down to probably 75. But now we need to line it up with our font again. So I think we want 90. Nope. 75. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, there it goes. And I'll be happy with that. The one last change I'll do, and I'll just let that run in the background as I wrap things up here, is I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet and I'm going to switch it out so the houses change with the characters. That's background stuff, so it's not very important, but it's a thing. So, and we'll not sit on the one that has a typo. But anyways, thank you for watching my Component.Studio video. I wanted to give a good idea of what the program looks like in action. And none of this was pre-scripted or pre-planned, so this is entirely me sitting down and making a set of cards in a matter of half an hour. But again, I'm Andrew Voigt. And this is another Component.Studio video. I don't really have a name for this one, but thank you all for watching, and tune in next week. And again, if you have comments or questions, there was something I did that you weren't sure how I did it, or there was something here, or there wasn't something shown that you want me to show, please leave a comment and let us know. Again, I want to focus on the features that you guys will make use of. This was Andrew Voigt with Component.Studio, helping you make games to be proud of. Okay, good enough. I'm happy.